If reality is a social construct, I'm rejecting society so that I can build up my own life. Or at least that's what every single Instagram guru is saying out there. What if the voices inside your head were not delusions, but rather the gods talking to you? The answer may depend on where you live. Psychosis, according to the DSM-5, which is kind of like the constitution of mental illnesses, is defined as a mental state characterized by a significant level of alteration of mental states, such as hallucinations, delusions, etc. So the individual feels as reality is such that the other people don't agree with. So this is really subtle and really, kind of like difficult to point out, because we all have a word for blue, and we all know that the sky is blue. We have a consensus that the sky is blue. But we also know that everyone sees the sky differently. Like, we all have different eyes. We all see the sky through different lenses, which means that the nuance to which we see the sky is different, okay? I hope you're getting the point. So, yes, we all know that the sky is blue, but we all see the blue differently. So it is really extremely difficult to point out when someone is hallucinated. Because imagine you're in a room with someone and they are just like warning you that there's a wasp inside the room, and that they are so afraid, and they begin to act irrationally as if there was a wasp in the room. But you don't see the wasp, but they truly believe that there's a wasp. So they act as if the wasp was actually there. That's what we call delusion. And now you may ask, like, Paula, why? Like, is it genetics? Why do people have psychosis or schizophrenic altercations? Because, yeah, psychosis is highly correlated to especially schizophrenia, and also some types of OCDs and other types of diseases and disorders. But I'm here to say, yes, it has, of course, a biological part. But I don't want to talk about it today. Because I could sit here and I could talk about the different types of genes that play a role in psychosis, because there's not one. There's not a part of the brain that if it's not working, you're just delusional. There's not a single gene that plays a role in it. It's a polychromosomic. I don't know if the word in English is the same, but anyway, I'm just gonna invent it. If not, you're getting the point, right? Like, multiple genes playing a role. And also, not only the genes that play a role, there's also epigenetics, which is the environment affecting the genes and how you express them. Also, there's genetic mutations, environmental factors that play a role, because it's not the same someone who was born and raised in a quote-unquote healthy environment than someone who grew up with zero money, zero emotional reassurance, zero resources of any kind. It's totally different.
Hey, I also want to say that's not a determined factor. If someone grew up in a terrible environment, that doesn't mean that they are going to be just doomed in the head and psychotic. That means that for them, some things are going to be harder. That doesn't mean that they are not able to achieve it. It's just going to be different.
Everyone's upbringing is completely different. Therefore, everyone's response to the genes that could play a role on psychosis is different. That's why professionals have a hard time drawing a line between what's psychosis and what's not. And today, we'll dive on how culture affects psychosis. Because why is it that we all, for some strange reason, accept that some people are delusional and they should be, in an institution? But other people, they're just enlightened and they just see things that we just don't, because we are the dumb ones. It's wild. And this is 100% product of our society and culture. And let's dive into it. If we see reality as a social construct that we all agree with, for instance, the color of the sky is blue, we've made up the word blue. It's a construct that we agree. To which point can we discern when something's pathological or not, or when something is normal or not? It is all subjective to the culture. Because for instance, there are plenty, tribes that have some sort of like magician or people who have higher powers, and those people are praised. They are something closer to God. Throughout history, people who claimed that they saw God, they were not crazy people that should be institutionalized. They were seen as some mystical being that was superhuman. So yeah, it's subjective. In our Western society, if you want to know more about Western values and the truth about them, I have a video on it. I will put it there, or better, you know what? I'm gonna put it also down into the pinned comment. Yeah. But what was that? Yeah. But I was talking about Western values and Western world, okay? And we live in a somewhat empirical society. If someone comes up to me and they're like, I saw God in my living room, or I saw a ghost, or the sky is yellow, you know what? I will not necessarily believe that they are fucking crazy, but certainly I will believe that something's kind of like wrong with them, or maybe they've just let their imagination, get a bit meshed with their reality, because we all have the capacity of imagining stuff, but we all also have the capacity to discern imagination from reality. We all know what's daydreaming, and we all know what's actually like being humbled. It's easy to think that people who suffer from psychosis have it easier to mesh the two worlds. Because yes, I live in a society where most people, if they come to me and they tell me that they've done something delusional, I will, of course, I'm no one to judge, but at the same time, I will be concerned for them. I will not think that they are some kind of superhuman. Why is it that the first thought I have is I am concerned for this person because their idea of reality doesn't enter in what we as a society accept, and maybe they should be institutionalized and get help. Why is it that I automatically think that? Because if I sit back and I see all the things I know about it, the answer is not that straightforward. Maybe they've done some mushrooms, I don't know. I don't think I'm the professional to just institutionalize someone yet. We in the West don't accept, those mystical people from tribes that see God or see spirits, but we also don't think is good someone who's schizophrenic. But there's plenty of people who believe chemtrails are a thing. That's something that they see as real, that has no empirical proof, and that it also falls from the social consensus of what reality is. Why we accept that there's people believing that the earth is flat, and why? Because there's plenty of conspiracy theories that people actually believe in, like Western societies, and we kind of accept them. Maybe not like fully, we don't agree with them, but we kind of like accept that they're a human being and that they can be inside our society. Oh, but when they are schizophrenic, they cannot. Bracket. Of course, mental health institutions need to be a thing. They need to have better conditions, indeed. Like, do they need to have better living conditions, and that we need to make sure that the patients are being treated fairly? Of course. But I'm just like asking questions for you guys to think, okay? Don't take anything I say as an absolute. I'm someone who's in the field, but I am not the epitome and the ultimate authority of any of those things, okay? So moving on, let's go and see some studies and what they show in the differences of schizophrenia in different cultures. Because I was in class and my professor asked everyone a question, and the question was, do you think like mental illnesses are universal? Like we can come to a general consensus of what schizophrenia is, for instance? or what psychosis is, because yes, as I've said, here we accept conspiracy theories, an alteration of reality, like chemtrails. We know that chemtrails are not a thing. It's not rocket science. Well, kind of is, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that chemtrails are just water, steam. And in case you were curious, people believe in like chemtrails and that the earth is flat because they act from a place of emotion, and so they reason it out. Just they want to believe in it and they play devil's advocate. Maybe not the devils, but like the conspiracy advocate. But anyway, going back to schizophrenia, it turns out that the World Health Organization did an international pilot study of schizophrenia. Basically, the World Health Organization took people from all over the country, many different societies and cultures throughout the 70s and the 80s, okay? And they compared schizophrenia patients that were already schizophrenic through different societies, and they did an observational study. You have cultures like India, Nigeria, Colombia, the UK, the US, Denmark. So, you have a bit all over the world. What did they find? They found that schizophrenia actually was very different in the West than in the East. Places like China or even India, the voices in schizophrenia were not evil, but in the West they were, especially in the US. Reports show that patients suffered much more from their own voices, and that it was some sort of like fish that bites its own tail. Is it a fish or a snake? Because in Spanish it's like a fish that bites its own tail. I hope you get me. So if the symptoms are different depending on the place you live, maybe the perception and the acceptance of the disorder is also different. And the way we see people with disorders is actually different. And the line we draw from delusion and normality is different. And that's the interesting question. Because if it depends on culture, where do we draw the line as the World Health Organization? Like from a global standpoint, where do we say this is normal and this is just a bit too much delusional? We all have the capacity to imagine stuff and be creative. Can we be creative enough to create our own reality? Yes, we can. But to which point? It is a fucking delusion. Honestly, I went into the class thinking that I was gonna get more answers than questions. And of course not. And also, I'm ending this video with more questions than answers for you guys. And honestly, I'm kind of sorry. But also, I am sorry not sorry, because I would really like to know your POV and your opinions on that, because I know that people from different places of the world follow me, and I would be really interested to know your POV, your experiences, because I do have family members that, suffer from schizophrenia, and I've seen people having like serious stereotypes and attitudes towards that person that are reinforcing this person's delusions. And I'm not blaming them, because I also have them, and we all have them, and we have them for a reason. It's to kind of like protect us. It's just to economize our thinking. We don't want to think too much. That's why we have stereotypes, so that we don't have to, play Sherlock Holmes every time we meet someone, or that we encounter someone with a disorder or a trait or from a different culture. But it is certainly interesting, because I would really like to put this person in another environment where their disorder needs to be institutionalized, because yes, I believe that people like this should be institutionalized, because they need the help of professionals in a controlled environment. But at the same time, they are treated as someone who's crazy. Not only, like, the world makes you feel crazy if you have a schizophrenia and you're institutionalized and everyone around you is being like, this person's hella weird and crazy. Well, at the end of the day, you will believe that you're freaking crazy, even if the professionals helping you are telling you that you're not crazy. Who are you more likely gonna believe? Like, even if you believe the professionals, you're still gonna believe what has more of an emotional, what you're not gonna believe the thing that you can reason the most. You're gonna believe the thing that touches your heart the most. And that is sick. That is really sick. That is like the fatal flaw of humans. I swear. I wish we could all act out of reason all the time, but we cannot. We need to have some muscle hypertrophy on our reason, because it's a skill. And I firmly believe that we should exploit it to the max. Well, maybe not the max, of course, like without undermining our emotions, but with things like this, and when it comes to our reality, we need to reason them out, and we need to approach reality from a rational standpoint, with help of the emotional rather than just what fits the most with our narrative. That's why playing the scientist with our own reality could be a great thing, because scientists don't go around proving their hypothesis. They prove their hypothesis wrong. They want to prove themselves wrong. And once you start, you know, I for instance started uni, and well, even in high school and all that, I was doing exercises to prove me wrong, or like my thesis wrong, and it's something that I've stuck with it. Like, whenever I say something to someone, or I state a point, or I prove a point, or I argument something to, like, anyone, even if it's like, oh yeah, she went to school yesterday. It's like, wait, did she actually go to school? Please don't mistake me. I am not implying that you should question everything all the time, because that would be that would be a waste of energy. But yeah, economize your thinking without undermining that reality is not what you see. And maybe we're all a bit delusional. Maybe we all sometimes let our imagination fly a bit too much. But sometimes thinking that you are already a doctor in neuroscience can, you know, get you there. But you also need to know that you're not there yet. And on that note, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. You've learned a bit more about psychosis, schizophrenia, and all those types of mental disorders that sadly a lot of people suffer from. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as they suffer from it, but maybe we don't have the appropriate responses as a culture. And we should live in a culture where we accept the differences of people, but at the same time, if someone is delusional and they are hurting other people, we should not accept that. That's when professionals and institutions come. But if this person just saying the sky is blue, but if this person just saying the sky is purple, well, I also believe that guy liked me and that I was gonna pass that test. Sometimes life is delusional because we don't know everyone's opinions and everyone's reality. So on that note, stay delusional. And see you next week.